welcome. Tonight, Nigeria Labour Congress declares nationwide protest over rising cost of living and insecurity in the country, directs affiliate members to mobilize for action scheduled for February the 27th and the 28th. Federal High Court Abuja orders the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to reopen investigation into the murder of the founder of Newswatch magazine, Dele Giwa, in 1986. And the President approves immediate upgrade of key health infrastructure and equipment across all 6 geopolitical zones in the country.
And on business news tonight, European Union announces plans to invest 37 million euros in solar and hydropower projects across Nigeria.
On sports news tonight, defending champions Manchester City play host to Chelsea in the EPL on Saturday as they look to extend their winning run to 12 consecutive games in all competitions.
From Abuja, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission steals a major supermarket in Abuja for price gouging, warns businesses in the food chain sector to desist from such act or face the law.
And in international news from London, Russia's most significant opposition leader for the past decade, Alexei Navalny, has died in prison inside the Arctic Circle.
We begin with labour issues. And the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, has declared a 2-day nationwide protest to hold February the 27th and the 28th over the rising cost of living and insecurity in the country. Consequently, the leadership of the Labour Centre has asked state chairmen of its affiliate members to mobilise for the action. Speaking after the Emergency National Executive Council meeting of the Congress, President of the NLC, Mr. Joe Ajaero, explained that the protest will be a prelude to a nationwide strike if the government refuses to address their demands. On the ongoing negotiation for a new minimum wage, the NLC president says that 1 million naira monthly minimum wage will be useless if government does not do something fast.
The NEC in session considered the unfortunate state of the nation, food suffering pervading the nation, the general crisis of living, the outrage expressed by majority, and the increased attendant fears of the continued consequences of these policies and the persistent refusal of the government to implement the tenets of the October Agreement. The NEC in session also took notice of the wise decision of the National Administrative Council of the Congress to demand that the agreement be implemented. The NEC in session declares a 2-day national protest on 27th and 28th of February to demonstrate outrage on the mounting hardship and insecurity around the nation. If our demands are not met after the nationwide protest, to issue a 7-day notice that will expire on the 2nd day of March 2024 to the federal government, after which an indefinite nationwide strike will ensure. If the Nigeria naira continues to depreciate, 1 million naira will be a child's play to the minimum wage. So today we are talking of about 1,500, 1,600. So if it continues that way, 1 million naira will be too small for the worker.
International and local investors have pledged to commit over $30 billion into Nigeria's economy. And this is according to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Doris Uzoka Anite. The minister stated this during a ministerial press briefing organized by the Ministry of Information and National Orientation in Abuja. Mrs. Uzoka Anite also clarified that the international oil giant Shell Petroleum Development Company is not planning to leave the country. Our correspondent Victoria Longjohn reports.
This is the second edition
of the ministerial press briefings by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation on the activities of the government.
This government is for the people, and therefore it is important for the people to know what they are doing. Of course, it's not possible to have everyone here, and that is why we have invited distinguished members of the media to come here and report to the entire country and even beyond about what we do here.
The Ministry of Trade and Investment reels out plans by the government to reform the investment landscape of the country and announces the efforts to accelerate the nation's economic growth.
We've also received a lot of investment commitments and pledges from our oil and gas free zone alone. Last week, I hosted some of them who came in and have already committed $10 billion additionally. My ministry is creating the Catalytic Investment Unit. That unit is going to then support further investment drive into the country by establishing the Diaspora Investment Initiative. For Nigerians, the risk of investment is a lot higher. We've engaged with multinational institutions like Afrexim, African Development Bank, BOI, even Murphy, to find a way to de-risk investments coming into the real sector of the economy. And I'm sitting here telling you that before coming here, we got more investment commitment in what they call a project preparation facility of at least 120 billion naira. What that means is that we now have the capacity to invest as a government directly into small institutions, small enterprises, to take the first loss of any business, to encourage further investment coming in from whether it's domestic or from foreign investors.
The minister sheds light on reports that some companies are divesting from the country.
I know a lot of us have heard that Shell is leaving. He came to explain to me what they mean by that. I can tell you that they are not leaving. Rather, they are expanding and increasing their investment in Nigeria. They are selling their onshore assets and increasing their investment in gas and in offshore assets.
The minister also announced plans to create a national job center to match available vacancies in industries and businesses with available talent pool. Victoria Longchun for Channels Television News.
To the judiciary now, Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court Abuja has ordered the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to reopen investigation and prosecution of those linked to the murder of the founder of Newswatch magazine, Dele Giwa, in 1986. Delivering judgments, Justice Ekwo held that the AGF was under obligation to prosecute and penalize the killers of media practitioners in Nigeria. Mr. Giwa was murdered on October the 19th, 1986, in his Lagos office through a letter bomb. The court ordered that the killings of other journalists in the discharge of their lawful duties must be investigated and perpetrators brought to book in line with the provisions of the law. Justice Ekwo also ordered the federal government to ensure adequate protection and the safety of lives of journalists as enshrined in sections 33, 39 of the Constitution and Articles 4 and 9 of the African Charters on Human and People's Rights. The Incorporated Trustees of Media Rights Agenda also sued the AGF before the court for the enforcement of fundamental rights of media practitioners and safety as guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution and African Charters on Human Rights. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has dismissed the appeal filed by the federal government against the reversal of the conviction of former Niger Delta Minister Godstay Rubebe on allegations of breach of code of conduct for public officers. In a judgment, the 5-member panel of the Apex Court held that the appeal by the federal government was incompetent. In the lead judgment prepared by Justice Mohamed Lawal Garba but read by Justice Emmanuel Agim, the court held that the appellants failed to obtain the prior leave of the court before filing that appeal, which was based on grounds of mixed law and facts. The court held that since the prior leave of court was not obtained as required, the appeal was incompetent and proceeded to dismiss it. The federal government's appeal was against the judgment of the Court of Appeal Abuja, which had set aside Mr. Rubebe's conviction on October the 4th, 2016 by the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the CCT. The federal government had, in a single count charge, accused Mr. Rubebe of failing to declare a property at plot 2057 Asokoro District, Abuja, in any of the asset declaration forms which is submitted to the CCB while serving as minister. Mr. Rubebe denied this allegation, claiming to have sold the property before becoming a minister and therefore found no need to declare it. Meanwhile, a court in Kano, High Court, has dismissed a case filed against the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, and the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria, challenging the federal government's directive to relocate medicine sellers in the Sabongari market to the Coordinated Wholesale Center. Justice Simon Amobeda, who delivered this judgment, says the appellant lacks locus standi. Our correspondent Sadiq Eliasu has more.
To curb the proliferation of fake and substandard drugs in Kano State, wholesalers of medicine in Sabongari area were directed to relocate to a coordinated wholesale center at the Kano Economic City.
And FIFA is not about NAFDAC. The truth is about Nigerians and about public health. It's not even just about Nigerians. It's about everybody, whether Nigerian or non-Nigerian, that are living in the country. Because drug is a serious issue. Drug is not a material that you could go and pick it anywhere. It is not a textile, neither it is just a wristwatch or something that doesn't have. It has direct consequences to our health.
This did not go down well with the dealers as they went to seek redress in court, challenging the decision of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration, NAFDAC, and the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria to relocate them. Justice Simon Amobeda of the Federal Court in Kano State has delivered the ruling on that case. The court dismissed the case against NAFDAC and the PCN.
The association lacks the local standard to sue the defendant. Then secondly, the court went on to say that since it lacks local standard, then the court will lack jurisdiction to entertain this matter. Then the court, in its magnanimity, said for the Court of Appeal to have something to say, in case the plaintiffs decide to appeal, it will delve into the substantive matter and determine the claims in all fairness of the plaintiffs.
NAFDAC believes the decision of the court will help in sanitizing the sale of drugs in Kano.
So by this landmark judgment that we have today, the Coordinated Wholesale Center in Kano will contribute in no way, in no small measure, in the mitigation of substandard and falsified medicine.
The court's decision to dismiss the case against NAFDAC and PCN signals a victory for the efforts to ensure the safety and quality of medicines in Kano State. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
And staying with legal matters, Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court Abuja has fixed April the 30th for judgment in the tussle for the leadership of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON. Justice Ekwo fixed the date after taking arguments from lawmakers and lawyers representing the various groups involved. The incorporated trustees of ALGON, Abubakar Abdullahi and Shaban Shoaib, had sued the Attorney General of the Federation and Alabi David before the court, challenging the emergence of Mr. David as the national president of ALGON. Our judiciary correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reports.
The grounds of the plaintiffs is that David is not qualified constitutionally to hold any position in ALGON, being the chairman of Bariga Local Development Area in Lagos, which is not listed among the 774 local governments in Nigeria. At the day's proceedings, counsel to the plaintiffs asked the judge to declare as illegal and unlawful the occupation of ALGON presidency office by David, who is the 8th defendant in the suit. The counsel informed the court that Nigeria at the moment has constitutionally recognized 774 local governments, out of which Lagos has 20, and Bariga LCDA is not one of them. He cited Sections 8 of the 1999 Constitution and Article 4 of ALGON Constitution, as well as a Supreme Court judgment on the listed local government areas to buttress his arguments. He further prayed the court to invoke Sections 150 and 170 of the Constitution to compel the AGF and others to ensure compliance by protecting ALGON from what he called impostors. The plaintiff's lawyer further says that the General Assembly convened by David on March 24, 2021, where purported resolutions, election and amendments were made, be declared unlawful, null and void on grounds of illegality. Mr. Okpara also sought another perpetual injunction, restraining David from further parading himself as an officer or representative of Algon. However, Counsel Tolabi David asked the judge to dismiss the case of the plaintiffs for directing it against the national chairman of Algon. In his preliminary objection, he insists the Algon Constitution recognizes the office of the president and not chairman as erroneously canvassed in the suit.
The Constitution empowers the states to create. When they create local governments, it has to be recognized by the local governments. The National Assembly. When the National Assembly recognizes it, it becomes law. And the Constitution will be amended to accommodate those ones. As at now, Bariga is not accommodated by the Constitution. And Constitution, anything that is not in the Constitution is to that effect null and void.
I'm not in a position to now put myself in the place of the Judas. We are just hopeful that justice will be served.
Justice Eko subsequently fixed April 30 for judgment. He added that parties will be notified if the judgment is ready before the date. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, one of the 12 aspirants cleared to contest for the All Progressives Congress tickets in tomorrow's primary election ahead of Edo State governorship election, Osage Ezeyamu pulls out of the race. Please stay with us. Back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 coming to you live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Nigeria Labour Congress declares nationwide protest over rising cost of living and insecurity in the country, directs affiliate members to mobilize for the action scheduled for February the 27th and the 28th. Federal High Court Abuja orders the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to reopen investigation into the murder of the founder of Newswatch magazine, Dele Giwa, in 1986. The President approves immediate upgrade of key health infrastructure and equipment across all 6 geopolitical zones in the country. And Russia's most significant opposition leader for the past decade, Alexei Navalny, dies in prison inside the Arctic Circle. Let's turn our attention to politics. One of the 12 aspirants screened and cleared by the All Progressives Congress to participate in tomorrow's primary election for the party, Osage Ezeyamu, has pulled out of the race. The decision is contained in a letter he addressed to the national chairman of the party, Ganduje Umar Abdullahi, explaining that he took the step after consulting with his family, friends, political associates and supporters, and in the interest of peace and unity in the party. Pastor Ezeyamu had contested the 2020 election against the current governor, Godwin Obaseki. In 2016, he was the flag bearer for the PDP and contested against the same opponent who was then with the APC. Mr. Ezeyamu's withdrawal from the race, the APC is left with 11 aspirants going into the primary tomorrow. To health matters now, the President has approved the immediate upgrade of key health infrastructure and equipment across all 6 geopolitical zones in the country. As contained in a statement by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngilali, the directive is in line with the administration's vision of overhauling the health and social welfare sector for enhanced service delivery to all Nigerians. The upgrade will be carried out by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare in collaboration with the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, and it will involve a comprehensive upgrade of cancer treatment infrastructure and other critical developments in 6 tertiary hospitals across the country. The teaching hospitals will also have been marked for the establishment of oncology and nuclear medicine centers per facility. 10 critical healthcare service expansion projects across fields of radiology, clinical pathology, medical and radiation oncology, and cardiac will also be carried out on the 10 hospitals across the country, and they're set to be delivered within 12 to 18 months. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has been appointed as the African Union Champion for Human Resources for Health and Community Health Delivery Partnership. The Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the President, Ajuri Ngilali, in a statement, says the appointment was made on a recommendation of the Committee of Heads of State and Government of Africa, CDC, which is chaired by President Azali Assoumani, is the president of the union and the chairperson of the African Union. President Tinubu is to address the Ministerial Executive Leadership Program, MELP, on Saturday, February the 17th, 2024, at the Africa CDC headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on the margins of the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of AU Heads of State and Government. We have more for you on the news at 10. We head over to Abuja studios now, where Maokwe Ogun Yusuf is standing by to give us more. Hello, Maokwe.
Hello, Anne. Shall I say happy Friday to you? It does appear the federal government is trying to give fillip to protect Nigerians from arbitrary price increases, as the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, the FCCPC, have sealed Sahat Stores, a major supermarket in Abuja, for price gouging. The store was sealed during the FCCPC's enforcement exercise in parts of the nation's capital today. The leader of the enforcement team, Mr. Adamu Abdullahi, who is the acting executive vice chairman of the agency, used the opportunity to warn businesses participating in activities contributing to price gouging in the food chain sector to desist or face the full force of the law.
Officials of the Investigation and Enforcement Unit of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, at a supermarket in Area 11, Garki, of the nation's capital. Is in front of the team swings into action, checking the prices of pastries on the shelves as they noticed varied prices on some items.
That was what was the issue the other time. People were picking prices and the tills were not telling the appropriate one with the display. 18 and 15. One has 15, one does. There's no price, 18. You wrote 15,000.
The team moves to the higher floor to check for prices on machinery items. A directive is given for the staff to leave and the facility is sealed. The leadership of the agency puts out a warning to businesses contributing to price gauging in the food chain sector to stop.
The product brands are different and they come with different prices. But what the consumer sees is one price. And it's at the discretion of the tillman to identify which price of the product, because all the products in the till systems are linked kuli. So if he decides it's 700 kuli or 1,200 kuli, it's at his discretion and the display will show you kuli. So each brand item is supposed to be priced differently if it is different. And where you have a bunch, is either you price individually or you display the price on the group of identical items. You cannot mix items together and have a single price, and only when you get to the till, you get a different price.
What we have found out that these people are doing is misleading pricing and lack of transparency in their pricing, which is against Section 1153 of the law that says an undertaking shall not require a consumer to pay a price for any good or service higher than the one that is on display. So that's exactly what is happening here, and that's what we have proved to you. You have also seen it from your own perspectives.
The acting executive vice chairman of the FCCPC calls on consumers to stay watchful and report infractions.
They can lodge their complaints with us, and we give our assurances, since everybody knows by now that we don't only bark, we bite. We have the will, we have the capacity. So therefore, lodge your complaint, we'll make sure that we do you justice.
The agency has promised to provide speedy redress to consumer complaints and end the unscrupulous exploitation of Nigerian citizens.
Meanwhile, Governor Inuwa Yaya of Gombe State says his administration is making serious efforts to address the food crisis confronting the country by providing security to enable the people go back to their farms. Speaking with State House correspondents after he met behind closed doors with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the presidential villa here in Abuja, he emphasized that the food crisis is not peculiar to Nigeria.
Food crisis is not only prevalent in Nigeria, it's elsewhere. It's throughout the world because of the challenges that the world is facing. But our own has its own peculiarities because of the insecurity that has bedeviled a lot of our states, especially in the northwest and the northeast. But that notwithstanding, we are putting serious effort to ensure that we restore normalcy, we provide security, and the people are back to their farms. So both on the short, medium, and long term, We have our own strategies. Each state has its own. But we've worked with the federal government in order to ensure that very soon we will overcome these challenges and Nigeria is back to its feet.
Staying in the northeast, Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State has reopened the Banki Amchada International Market on the border of Nigeria and Cameroon to boost trade and enhance security in the border communities. He also laid the foundation for the construction of an international cattle market in the border community, which was destroyed by Boko Haram terrorists. After a bilateral meeting with officials of the far north region of Cameroon Republic, Professor Zulum explained that the initiative is to bring stability to the Lake Chad region.
Banki community in Bama local government area of Borno State borders Amcheda in Mora province in the far north state of Cameroon, and it's famous for international trade between Nigeria and Cameroon. Despite resettling inhabitants to the town 2 years ago, the road leading to Banki remained dilapidated, making it easy target for Boko Haram terrorists. Governor Babagana Zulum is in the community, and he receives the governor of the far north state and his entourage at the border. The officials are in the community to reopen the Banki International Market.
This administration has focused on reinvigorating commerce, resuscitating our international border markets. Borno State is blessed with several international borders with the Republic of Cameroon, Nigeria, and Chad. The Banki International Market is one of the most important markets in the state, as it is a commercial hub for people in the far north region of Cameroon and the Republic of Chad. To this effect, we have so far rehabilitated 148 government-owned shops with the support of the Regional Stabilization Facility.
The reopening of the market marks a significant step towards restoring normalcy to the region.
Let me also use the opportunity to magnify the quality of relationship which characterize the good neighborliness between the Fano region and the Borno State, sharing a common border, signifying the similitude of security challenge, economic growth, and sustainable development.
After laying the foundation for the reconstruction of the international cattle market, Professor Zulum commissions 5 blocks of 2-bedroom apartments for teachers in the resettled border town. The governor then holds a bilateral meeting with officials of the Cameroonian government at the headquarters of the 152 Brigade Command. The governments of Cameroon and Nigeria are expected to hold further meetings to facilitate regional stabilization, promote trans-border trade and commerce, as well as strengthen security along the borders.
In crime matters, 40 suspects have been arrested for illegal transportation of crude oil in Bayelsa State. The Force Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Police, Mr. Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says the efforts of the force led to the recovery of 2 large vessels used for the illegal business. He says this has been achieved in conjunction with the military and other relevant security agencies.
Particularly Tantita Security Service. The effort led to the arrest of 40 suspected individuals and recovery of 2 vessels in 2 different interceptions at the Ogbogoro oil field, Brass area, and Ekenin area of southern Niger in Bayelsa State for conspiracy, tampering with oil pipeline, illegal transportation of crude oil, dealing in crude and storing same without lawful authority or appropriate license, amongst others.
Still ahead on the news at 10, European Union announces plans to invest 37 million euros in solar and hydropower projects across the country. That's in business news. Do join us again.
Welcome back. 3 worshippers have been reportedly killed, with several others abducted as bandits raided a mosque in Kankara in Katsina State. The incident is said to have occurred in a community in Kankara local government area on Thursday night. A resident of the area told our correspondent that the bandits on motorcycles raided the mosque at about 8 p.m. While security agencies and government officials in the state are yet to confirm this incident, the resident said that 4 other worshippers were wounded as a result of that attack, which lasted for hours. To infrastructure development now, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State says the provision of quality infrastructure remains one of the easiest ways of improving the lives of the people. He stated this during the commissioning of the 12.5-kilometer dualized road in the state capital, where he announced the wage award currently being paid to workers will be extended for another 6 months. Governor Makinde, who was accompanied by his Enugu state counterpart, also promised to continue to do all that is required to make life easier for the people.
The royalties here present.
Despite the harsh economic realities in the country at the moment, there is a reason to rejoice for residents along Challenge, Oduono-Elewe, Elebu-Akpata, and environs in Ibadan, as this road that has been abandoned for over 8 years has now been done. Governor Makinde, in his address at the event, says it's another promise kept, and he would not relent in efforts to make Oyo State prosperous.
Well, we're here today to commission the dualized 12.5-kilometer challenge Oduono-Elewe, Elebu-Akpata Road. This is our way of ushering in prosperity for our people and ensuring that they enjoy the dividends of democracy.
The governor has more cheering news for your state workers.
When this economic crisis started, we gave wage award to the workers. I gave them for 6 months. We started since October. I wanted that buffer, that time to be able to sort out between the government and the workers what the minimum wage should be. We have not been able to achieve that, and I will announce today also that that wage award will be extended by another 6 months.
His counterpart from Enugu State, who was the special guest of honor, describes the project as a bold testament of Governor Makinde's quest to leave a lasting legacy for his people.
For me, this is not just an event to mark the cutting of a ribbon. It is a testament, a bold testament to the governor's quest of leaving lasting legacies to humanity.
The commissioned road will no doubt promote ease of doing business along that corridor as it reduces travel time and serves as an escape from the traffic congestion in adjoining roads. Bukola Oriowo, Channels Television News.
In other stories, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has reiterated the commitment of the U.S. government towards broadening support for farmers and increasing market access through a multi-sector strategy. And this involves engaging government, the private sector, and communities to help empower and strengthen local capacities. And this assurance was communicated in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, by the Deputy Mission Director of USAID in Nigeria during the inauguration of an 800 metric ton dry food processing factory in the state capital.
This is the official commissioning of the Real Fruit Factory in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. And the Deputy Mission Director of the United States Agency for International Development is joining other guests from within and outside of the country to flag off the facility. The 800 metric tons dry fruit processing factory began operation in 2012. The chief executive officer of the company describes the success story as one hinged on strong partnership.
A successful partnership that has contributed not only to the growth of industry in Nigeria, but also to the creation of jobs and to the support of farmers. To our lead investor, Alithea IDF Fund, I want to recognize and thank you for your unwavering commitment to Real Fruit. This relationship has been nurtured over 8 years and continues to grow.
The factory is a product of the West Africa Trade and Investment Hub project, with $500,000 co-investment grant between USAID and the factory to help restore the company's supply chain after the adverse impact of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The key to our partnership is engaging the government, the private sector, communities to empower local actors, right? Nigerian businesses, and commercially viable businesses, linkages among input suppliers, producers, aggregators, and processors. In alignment with this vision, USAID, through the West Africa Trade and Investment Hub, has catalyzed investment for 33 Nigerian businesses, and this includes businesses such as Real Fruit.
The Ogun State government guarantees more investor-friendly policies. With 280 jobs already created and raw materials sourced locally, the company is proud of the impact it is already making, with hope to even increase it in the days ahead.
First Bank of Nigeria Limited, one of the country's foremost financial institutions, is rewarding its valued customers for their loyalty over the years. Through its Big Win promo, the bank says it is using the opportunity to help reduce the current economic burden on its customers.
It's the third and penultimate draw of the First Bank Win Big promo to reward valued customers of the financial institution. This draw, like the previous two, will have 310 people get richer with 100,000 naira.
We conceived this promo to encourage customers to save, to also encourage financial inclusions by encouraging people who don't have account to open new accounts. We also intended to encourage digital-only banking by moving customer transactions to the channels. At the same time, we intended to reward and recognize customers who do their transactions, who open accounts, who reactivate their existing account.
A total cash reward of 170 million naira was set aside for the 4-month promo, which started on October 23, 2023, and will run till February 23 this year. So what are the customers and prospects expected to do?
All you need to do is to deposit 5,000 naira in that existing account or a new account that you've just opened as a new customer. We've positioned First Mobile, we've positioned Lead App, we've positioned USSD, we've positioned debit card, and we've equally positioned First Online. These are all digitally enabled and fast banking beyond banking channels of First Bank. You make 5 transactions, you transact 5 times in a month, and you leave an average of 5,000 naira at the end of the month in your account, or incrementally to stand a chance to qualify and get into the qualifying list.
For inclusivity, the draw will capture winners from across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Therefore, for each of the regional draws, 10 people from the 31 retail groups of the bank will be rewarded.
The process has been transparent. First Bank is doing a really great job of, rewarding Nigerians, especially in this very difficult time. So I'll say big congratulations to them and basically well done.
At the end of the Win Big promo, a total of 1,300 will be rewarded across the country. 100,000 naira will go to 1,240 customers. Others will be rewarded for reactivating their dormant accounts. And at the grand finale, 6 customers will win the grand prize of 1 million naira each.
We're continuing the world of business. Will Ibong is standing by to give us more.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome to Business News. Now, the European Union, EU, has announced plans to invest 37 million euros in solar and hydropower systems aimed at enhancing healthcare centers and rural regions across the country. The EU head of mission to Nigeria, Ambassador Samuela Isopi, made this known during a visit to the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, on Friday in Abuja. Mrs. Isopi explains that this financial injection is separate from the nearly 200 million euros in grants previously allocated to sectors since 2008. Mrs. Isopi emphasizes that the ongoing intervention projects will also encompass rural electrification through isolated and interconnected mini-grids projects. Now, Africa will account for 11 of the world's 20 fastest growing economies in 2024, and that's according to the African Development Bank, AFDB. The projection is contained in the AFDB's latest macroeconomic performance and outlook of the continent for 2024, launched today on the sidelines of the 37th African Union Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The AFDB president, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, on his part, is calling for larger pools of financing and several policy interventions to further boost Africa's growth.
To be put into domestic resource mobilization. The domestic resource mobilization is hinged on the development of the local capital markets. And so we have to do a lot in terms of that, raise financing local capital markets to meet the rising expenditure needs of our countries. That's the first point. The second point is the rising debt service costs of many countries, which has been worsened by the weakening of the domestic currencies, requires a reasonable balance to be achieved between external and domestic borrowing. I mean, infrastructure, that you need to borrow to do infrastructure. So if you're borrowing to do infrastructure, but if the assets that you have are in local currency, and you're borrowing continuously in foreign currency, you're going to have a real problem. I think that's one of the challenges that we have. So developing that local currency financing, it's very key for us to match the revenue streams to the cost of financing that we are having.
Now let's get a sense of what happened at the stock market today with John McCoy standing by.
Building on the intraday profits, we see that the oil share index added even more. It hit 105,000, but now it's at 105,722.78 points, and there it's 1.56% in the green. Now, to the joy of a lot of investors. And the more important part is the money part. 57 trillion naira, 0.849. So 57.849 is the market cap at the NGX at the close of trade on Friday. Good news, and for a second time this week, Bua Food is moving the market. The stock opened at 325 naira, but closed at 357 naira 50 kobo. If you do have a stock with Bua Food, you just gain 10% on your investment. Now let's see a summary of that with the sectors. Banking gains 0.74%. FBN Holding and Zenith Bank did that, as well as UBA. Consumer goods, of course, Bua Foods did that. More than 6% in one trading session. Oil and gas got cut with profit taking 0.32% in the red. What a pleasant week it's been. At least we had more positive, to the joy of the bull.
And that's a wrap on Business News. It's back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Will. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has been ordered by the New York judge to pay more than $350 million in a landmark fraud case. Mr. Trump was also prohibited from acting as a company director in New York State for 3 years. Here's Simon Pusey with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russia's most significant opposition leader for the past decade, Alexei Navalny, has died in prison inside the Arctic Circle. The prison service in the Yamalo-Nenets district said he had felt unwell after a walk on Friday. Seen as President Vladimir Putin's most vociferous critic, Navalny was serving a 19-year jail term for offences widely considered politically motivated. He was moved to an Arctic penal colony considered one of the toughest jails in the world late last year. 4 years ago, Navalny was hospitalized in the Siberian city of Omsk after falling ill and losing consciousness while on a flight. German officials later said he was poisoned with the nerve agent Novichok. The TASS news agency says the cause of his death is being established, but the US Secretary of State put the blame firmly on the Russian government.
For more than a decade, the Russian government and Putin have persecuted, poisoned, and imprisoned Alexei Navalny. And now, the reports of his death. First and foremost, if these reports are accurate, our hearts go out to his wife and to his family. Beyond that, his death in a Russian prison and the fixation and fear of one man only underscores the weakness and rot at the heart of the system that Putin has built. Russia's responsible for this. We'll be talking to many other countries concerned about Alexei Navalny, especially if these reports bear out to be true.
The United States has warned that Russia could seize Ukraine's key eastern town of Avdiivka, the scene of some of the fiercest fighting in recent months. Russian troops have made gains in Avdiivka, threatening to encircle it. The town, which has been almost completely destroyed, is seen as a gateway to nearby Donetsk, the regional Ukrainian capital seized by Russian-backed fighters in 2014 and later illegitimately annexed by Moscow. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky vowed to do everything to save as many Ukrainian lives as possible. NATO's Secretary General says he expects the United States to approve a multi-billion-dollar aid package for Ukraine. It's currently being held up by some Republicans in Congress. Jens Stoltenberg has been speaking in Munich.
I welcome that the European Council has approved an important new package of aid to Ukraine, and I expect the US to follow suit. This is vital. Putin must realize he will not get what he wants on the battlefield. So if we want a lasting peace, we must continue to provide Ukraine with weapons and ammunition.
The decision to postpone this month's elections in Senegal is against the constitution. That's according to the country's top court. The Constitutional Council annulled both President Macky Sall's decree and a contentious bill passed by Parliament moving the vote to December. Widespread protests have gripped the country, once considered a bastion of democracy in the region. Opposition figures said it amounted to a constitutional coup. The Kenyan actress Lupita Nyong'o has made history by taking over as the first black head of the Berlin International Film Festival jury. The annual film showcase event, also known as Berlinale, is one of the 5 largest global film festivals. The event has not had a black jury head in its 74-year history. Nyong'o will lead the jury in selecting the winning films in the 2 main categories, Golden and Silver Bears. And the shirt worn by Colin Firth in the 1995 adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice is expected to fetch £10,000 at auction. The white shirt Mr. Darcy emerged dripping wet from in a lake was central to one of the most famous scenes in television history.
Miss Bennet,
I did not expect to see you, sir. We understood all the family were from home, and we should never have presumed.
I returned a day early. Excuse me, your parents are in good health?
Yes, they are very well. Thank you, sir.
Now, a costume house has announced the shirt is going under the hammer in a charity auction. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks indeed, Simon. In the world of sports, the second stanza of the Nigeria Premier Football League will kick off this weekend after the league went on a break owing to the Cup of Nations. 2 games are lined up for tomorrow in Owerri. Bottom place Heartland FC will host Kano Pillars. In Aba, reigning champions Eyimba will be in action against Shooting Stars. In the Premier League, Mauricio Pochettino has promised his Chelsea side will attack Manchester City when they visit Premier League champions Etihad Stadium on Saturday. Chelsea have lost 12 of their Premier League fixtures this season, but held City to a 4-4 draw at Stamford Bridge in November, with former City player Cole Palmer scoring a penalty in stoppage time for the hosts to snatch a point. Anyway, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola knows his threats posed by his former player Cole Palmer as the reigning champions host Chelsea at the Etihad. Palmer played a big part for City earlier in the season after scoring in the Community Shield and UEFA Super Cup. And that's a wrap on sports. I'm Kelly. It's back to Anne.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. Nigeria Labour Congress today declared nationwide protest over rising cost of living and insecurity in the country. Just as it directed affiliate members to mobilize for the action scheduled for February the 27th and 28th. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawado. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.